Hi everyone, Emily here, a PhD student from Melbourne, Australia. I'm sharing some of these discussions with you so that you can better understand some of the career options available to you after your PhD. I hope you enjoy them. Okay, hi. This is my friend Jess. She's a PhD student at the same institute as me. And I wanted to interview you today, Jess, because I find your story really inspiring. I think it's really interesting that you've kind of been able to combine your hobbies and science, and I think other people would really benefit from that. So today we'll talk a little bit about Jess's current role and some of her hobbies and how she's been able to sort of combine the two, possibly also how she's needed to pivot during COVID. And also I think it's really important to, when we tell these stories, to talk about some of the setbacks that people experience, because I know for me, if I look at someone that I find inspiring, you know, if I can only see their successes, then it feels like, you know, I will never be able to achieve that same level. And there's so much behind the scenes that you never get to see. So that's a bit of what we will cover today. Jess, do you want to introduce yourself, what your current role is?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for watching Emily's video. Yeah, so I am a PhD, I guess, scientist, like Emily at the same institute. I've also had experience as a academic teacher at Deakin University. And I also currently run my own business, which is called My Mini Scientist, and I run hands-on science parties at kids' birthdays. So I guess you could say the equivalent would be like a Disney princess entertainer. But instead of coming in and singing songs, I come in and we do really fun experiments for the kids, and we blow things up, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And you might notice Jess is wearing some of her designs at the moment. So she's wearing a pinafore, science-themed pinafore, and she's also got some beautiful lab coat earrings. So we might talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But I might get you, Jess, just to wind back a little bit and tell us a bit about why you sort of took the science route and why you decided to go into a PhD.
Interesting. I guess in high school, I was always that girl that was really good at science and maths. And I was a little bit shy in my earlier years. And so I really threw myself into my studies. And I come from a family that really, I mean, I was the first to go to university, but at the same time, my family had a lot of expectations on academics. So yeah, I guess I was just like, that was just always the path that was going to be for me, to do something academic. And my mum comes from a background where she grew up in a lot of poverty in the Philippines, and I had this dream that I wanted to study medicine and then go back and open up like a healthcare center. So that's always been like this huge, almost unachievable dream. But just to like do something awesome like that to really help people that were in her situation. And my family is, you know, over there is still in that current situation. So from a really young age, I wanted to do something like that. So I went and I guess in the later years of my high schooling, I rediscovered theatre and singing and music and musicals, and I'd done a drama school, or well, I was enrolled in drama school when I was in primary school, to try and get over that shyness that I used to have when I was little. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, Emily probably sees me as someone who's like the opposite of shy. But I was really, really shy as a kid. So my mum put me into drama school, and that really helped build my confidence and my like talking, communication and stuff like that. And then in the later years of high schooling, I rediscovered that, joined this musical, and I guess science and maths and my studies took a bit of a backseat in year 12, which is like the most important year, I guess. So through that year and then the following years in my undergrad degree, I guess it was this real, like, not struggle, but like a real sort of balance of trying to fit those two things together, which I really loved. You know, my passions came from being on stage, and like that's what I loved doing, but you know, I still really loved science and I still really loved maths, so that was still always going to be there. And then in my second year of my undergrad, I didn't really know what I wanted to do afterwards. I guess I still wanted to do medicine, but because I was still really throwing myself into musicals, my grades for medicine probably wasn't there. And so I took an internship at the institute where we are at now, and did a bit of work experience, and I really, really enjoyed the lab. And they said, when you finish, would you like to come back and do an honours year? And I said yes. Yeah, and I guess that's the story. And then, you know, at the end of the honours year, they said the same thing. Do you want to continue and do a PhD? And I said, yeah, all right. Yeah, so I
flows on from
it
there.
was just a real flow, I guess. But I've always been someone that never says no to things. So if I a bit of a weird movie, but I think there was like a Jim Carrey movie called Yes Man.
Yeah, yep.
And I remember watching that. I can't remember how old I was, but like I sort of took on that persona, and I really, I guess I have a lot of FOMO. And so if an opportunity comes up, or if someone asks me to do something, I'll just always say yes, because that's always just been built in.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to that. And I knew I would learn something by talking to you in more detail about this, because I didn't know your background. So I think people will find that really, really interesting and really noble that you have that goal. I can also totally relate to trying to fit different parts of yourself together, and how that can be really challenging, particularly in the academic industry, which can seem quite,
Dry.
straight up. Well, yeah, it can seem a little bit dry. So I do want to ask you another question about that, but just before I do that, just I think it's really important to highlight learning to say no, because I think that's something that I've really struggled with as well. So I think that's something for anyone that's looking at going into, an honours year and a PhD and any career really, that it's important to realise that you only have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of energy. And as much as you might feel really flattered that someone's offered you an opportunity, it's really important to think about, how much time and energy you have, and whether it's something that you feel really, really excited about doing, or whether it's going to help you achieve a later goal, because we can end up overcommitting, and then it, takes away from potentially your relationships or other things that you would really like to spend your time doing. So I think that's a really important point, and something a lot of PhD students probably struggle with. But yeah, going to the dry nature of academia. So I think you're like me, and I think this is one of the reasons why we connected, that we don't necessarily feel like we fit in with this stereotypical kind of concept of what a scientist is. And I know that's changing, but how do you think that has sort of affected you, like through your honours year and through your PhD? You know, I think a lot of people would struggle with that and maybe feel like they're the only ones and feel like they need to leave academia because they're feeling this. Like, can you kind of comment on that?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I was thinking about this yesterday actually. Just how I sort of sometimes feel like I live in two worlds, like my science world and my theatre world. And obviously now, like, my theatre world is no longer like that present because COVID has forced us to basically shut down all of the theatre industry. But I guess living in those two worlds, when I'm working in the science world, sometimes I feel like I don't fit in because I'm a little bit more out there and I'm a little bit more like theatrically strange. But when I go into the theatre world, you know, I also feel like I don't really belong there sometimes because I'm a scientist, and most of the people in the theatre world, you know, live, eat and breathe theatre, and I don't have that capacity to do that because, you know, my 9 to 5 during the week is a science job. And yeah, so it's been a little bit weird because I feel like, you know, two halves of me are being pulled. And I try to bring a little bit of both into wherever I'm, you know, wherever I go. So at work, like, I guess I try to like dress really colorfully and
I've always loved that.
And, you know, like do a little dance or a little sing song in the lab. And then when I'm at rehearsals for a show, you know, I try to talk about my science and try to educate people if they want to chat about like what I do. Or so yeah, it's been really interesting trying to like discover who I am.
Yeah, no, but legitimately. And this is, I mean, a great segue for what we're going to go into now, which is how you've managed to kind of combine those two things in what you're doing now. But
yeah,
I think that's, it's, I mean, I feel the exact same way. And I think it's important for anyone that has, you know, an interest in science and has gone down that route to, you know, try to think about who they are outside of their research.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important for someone that pursues an academic career anyway, because it's always important to have your outside interests and your outside supports. But I guess it just highlights that there sort of isn't any one straight path. Like, you really can kind of think about what you bring to the table. Because as much as we sometimes, I mean, always are our own worst critics. And when I asked you if I could interview you, I know you said, it's not that interesting. And I think it really, really is. And I think the viewers will totally agree with me that you've done something really amazing. But to try and build that confidence within ourselves to bring our unique talents and try to combine that with you know, potentially academic interests, because it can grow into something really beautiful and something really unique that is absolutely needed.
Just adding on that, I just wanted to add in, I think you asked what like if there were any challenges with, I guess, like my background or feeling like I don't fit in. And definitely I just wanted to mention that sometimes, especially young scientists, so PhD students and honours students and you know, people really early in their career who do feel like they're a little bit different, I think that there is a bit of a struggle to feel like they're being taken seriously. And for me as well, I've always felt like I I've got a bit of a baby face, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, but like I constantly get asked like, what am I studying for my VCE this year?
Really?
Yeah, and I'm 26, almost 27. So I think that as well, just feeling like that feeling of like not being taken seriously, or that you don't have good ideas or worthy opinions, can be a bit of a struggle, especially for young scientists. So if there are viewers that also feel that way, like, know that you're not alone. And I would really recommend taking some sort of an improv or drama class. Like, I know it might seem a bit out there, but even it was late, not last year, but the year before, I have like a drama background already, but when I was returning to work from a bit of a break, I was lacking confidence in myself, and I actually took another 12-week course, just at like this random night school. And it might seem out there, but there are people there that were coming from corporate backgrounds who again just wanted to like build their confidence and work out how to like communicate and think effectively on their feet. That could be another option as well for someone who feels like they're a bit, inside their shell. And I would totally recommend doing some sort of like a little drama course.
I think that's a really good point, because I think it's important sometimes to have a little bit of a play.
Yeah.
As an adult, I've sort of been thinking recently about how I can incorporate a little bit of like a childlike essence into my adult life, because I think we lose that because we have so many responsibilities and so many stresses. But it's really important to kind of just let go every now and again and just, during isolation and the restrictions of COVID-19, I've had earphones in and my partner's been playing video games and I've been like dancing around the living room ridiculously. And I've thought about like going back to making like hundreds and thousands, fairy bread. Like, and I think it's really, really important. And as much as, taking a drama class might feel really out of sorts with what you've done previously, I think, I imagine in that environment, a very safe space is probably created where you can explore, explore those creative outlets, and it's probably, if it's an avenue to try and build your confidence, people are kind of rooting for you. And I think that's something that is important if you're a PhD student, because it is a really personal journey and it can have significant negative impacts on our self-esteem, because we're learning so much. It's such an exponential learning curve and we're constantly kind of bashing up against failure in experiments, and feeling like there's just so much to learn and we're never going to get there. So there are obviously people within academia that can help with that. And I mean, Jess and I have found each other, you and I have found each other. And I think we try and support each other when we can. To have something outside that can help with that, I think is a really good point. So I've thought about actually going and doing some contemporary dance classes, because I've always wanted to do. And I love the idea of just going and like feeling, with the music and kind of getting into that and taking my brain away from all of the stresses and responsibilities of my career. Unfortunately, we're in isolation at the moment, so I can't do that so much, but an option that I'll explore when we go back. So I wanted to then get into, so you've mentioned that you run science parties, or you've started running science parties. So what led you, and I mean, actually, I sort of know the answer to this, it had something to do with it, but what led you to combining those different sides of yourself?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think it was like start of last year. I was having like an existential crisis, and we were chatting in our office about like, what am I going to do after my PhD? And I said to you, how can I swear on this?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I was like, how the fuck can I get science and my theatre background together? And I was like, if only there was something that can bring the two together, and that would just be the dream. And you were like, oh, I'm pretty sure there's something out there like that, you know, where they like, where companies go out to schools and they run like science shows at schools. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. And yeah, you really encouraged me. I didn't even think about that avenue at all. So you really encouraged me to look into that. And so I think we Googled it together, like science school things,
so.
incursions or something. And so I cold emailed this company, and I got a job with them as a science communicator on weekends. So they were beginning to do their own parties, birthday parties. But there was a few things that I didn't really like about the way that they were like communicating to the kids, and just in general, like how they ran their business. And so I came home one day and I literally said to myself and to Nick, my partner, I feel like I can do this myself and I can do it better. And I want to do it in a way that is a lot more fun for the kids. So I was running a team party with another science communicator that weekend, which is when I came home, and had this like big idea. And we were running the party to 4 and 5 year olds, and her language that she used for the kids when she was trying to explain, it was like a little acids and bases experiment, was just way over the top of their head, and it wasn't fun for the kids. And I was just, yeah, it was just really dry, and I didn't enjoy the way she was running things. And at a birthday party, you know, you want things to be fun and energetic and, oh my God, party and cake and stuff. Yeah, so, you know, I didn't really want to be associated with that anymore. And the people that they were hiring for their science communicators didn't have like any theatre or party entertainment background. And I'd also worked as a party entertainer before, as a Disney princess. So, you know, I guess I had that experience of, you know, how to make things more enjoyable for kids, and how to communicate to them more effectively than just, you know, your standard, I don't want to like badmouth scientists, but like, you know, your standard dry communication that a lot of scientists have between other adult scientists, which is what's needed. But when you're delivering, you know, a little session to a 5-year-old, it has to be completely different. And that's not what they were doing effectively in my mind. So yeah, I wanted to just, I guess, I don't know, I just thought to myself, I can do this. And I guess I had this childlike, naive dream, you know, where I guess, which was good, because if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have had the balls to open up my own business. But it was definitely like a huge learning curve. I never had any business knowledge prior to this, and you know, I spent a lot of time researching into just like the smallest things which I wouldn't have even thought about. Like, I needed to build my own website because, you know, I didn't have like I don't know what the right word is, but like the capital behind me to, you know, go and outsource all of these different things, which another person might be able to do. So everything that you see, myself and my boyfriend did it from scratch and did it by ourselves. So like, yeah, it's just been crazy. But yeah, basically, like, I saw something that I thought I could do better. And that really I thought really, really played to the skills that I had. And I went out and I just had the confidence in myself to do it.
And I think, you know, this is how businesses start. Like someone sees something, you know, sees a gap in what's being provided, and has the skills and the capabilities to try and fill that gap. And so, you know, this has come out of something very, very genuine. And I think it's, it would be really interesting for viewers to sort of get a look into this, because from the outside, if someone looks at you, they're like, okay, she's doing a PhD in neuroscience. She is a model. She does musicals. She runs her own business. Now she's producing merchandise. She's also a research assistant. Like, what the hell? Like, this person is not human. Like, you're so busy. And I think, you know, someone could be a little bit alienated and a little bit intimidated by that from the outside. But if we talk to you about, you know, how you came to that,
how shit my life really is.
I think people would have, I think people could relate to this story of being like, okay, like I saw something and I felt like I could do something about it. And as much as it was kind of scary and I sort of didn't really know what I was doing, like I sort of just went for it and it built from there. So like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Because I mean, I guess I'm doing something a little bit similar at the moment. Like, I don't know where these interviews are going to go, but I really enjoy doing them. So how do you go from, you know, having no experience in business to building something like what you have?
I think this comes down to, like, again, my acting background, where like you just have to fake it until you get to the point where you're like, oh yeah, like I've actually done something. So I'm pretty good at like having, I guess, like the facade of like having it all together. And I think that comes from, you know, years and years of acting and being on stage and playing different roles. But yeah, I mean, it's just, for me, like, I don't know, I didn't even really, like, I was a little bit nervous, obviously, like putting myself out there. And the first post that I did on social media about how I was starting this company was so scary, because it's, you know, you feel very vulnerable when you're putting yourself out there, and you are worried that, oh, if I tell all my friends and you know, extended circles about this, like what happens if it fails and I'm going to look like an idiot. And that is the thing that I've realized in like the last few years is that I'm most scared of, is looking stupid. And I think that holds a lot of people back, is that feeling, which is so understandable. But at the same time, like, if you, I don't know, like, I guess everybody, I mean, we've spoken about imposter syndrome and all of those feelings. But once you realize that literally everybody feels the same way, then, you know, maybe that'll make it a bit easier to put yourself out there a bit more. And I've also always had this feeling of just wanting to be the best and wanting to, I mean, like, I don't think you would pursue a PhD if you didn't always want to be better than someone.
You want to achieve highly, like you're ambitious, you want to achieve things. I agree. There's an element of I mean, look, I'll be very honest and say that I was a little bit arrogant when I went into my PhD. And I've been humbled through the process. But I never thought that it would take me longer than 3.5 years. I just assumed that I would get through it, because I've always got through the challenges that I've put myself through. This one has taken me down a few notches.
Same.
And I think that's really common. But no, I agree. You know, we like to be challenged, I think. So we'll need to probably tie this up because I know you've got to go to one of your many jobs. But maybe just to finish up, could you explain where people could find you, your different social media channels, and if they want to have a look at some of your beautiful pinafores and jewellery and tops that you've kind of released since COVID has taken away the ability for you to do your science parties. Maybe could you touch on that for us?
Yeah, just plug myself.
Yeah, right. So you to do
it. So yeah, with all the restrictions coming in, and obviously like I haven't been able to run parties since March, it has taken away, like a huge chunk of my income, which has been a bit scary as well. But you know, at the end of the day, like I started this business because I wanted to show that STEM can be a lot of fun. And even if you don't want to pursue being a scientist, like just having the appreciation that science is all around us, and having those skills and those analytical skills, you know, is really important, just in like your everyday life. So I really thought that there was something missing where people who were into science but who were a little bit more quirky and a little bit more, you know, colourful. I thought something was missing for them. And I've been as you mentioned before, a model for a little clothing range called Pretty Parcel for the last 5 years. And they as well really brought out, they've been huge for like my confidence in bringing out the more fun and quirky side of me through clothing. And so I wanted to partner with them and all of their other small business collaborators that they partner with, to bring out like a science range. So I thought that was a really good way to still promote STEM and promote science and how fun and colourful it can be, through other avenues, even though I can't do parties anymore. So if you follow My Mini Scientists on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see a lot of posts about the releases that we've done in the last few weeks and in the few more weeks coming. So basically it was to celebrate National Science Week, which is the middle week of August. And we've got dressmakers making science pinafores, which is what I'm wearing today, my little science dress.
And give us a little bit of a twirl.
I lost my headphone. So basically they've taken the logo from my party business and turned it into a design and a print. So we've got dresses, t-shirts, we've got a kids pinafore, which is so cute. So if you have a little mini scientist running around, we've got that too. We also have earrings. So I've got my lab coat earrings. And, you know, not just for scientists, but nurses, doctors, pharmacists, you know, anyone in that industry as well, would be a great gift. We're also selling tote bags, so you know, carry around all your science textbooks, little clutches, which are really good for iPads, going out as well. And I have taken up a little hobby in isolation, and my mum and I have made our own scrunchies with the science print, so I'll be releasing that in the next few weeks.
Awesome. So I'll put some of these links in the notes for anyone that's interested in sort of following up on some of the things that Jess has mentioned. But yeah, I'll let you get off to where you need to go. So thank you for having a chat to me, and I think it's been really interesting. Like I said, I've learned a lot, and hopefully we'll be able to have another chat sometime soon, I think, because I think we could go a lot of places with your story. So thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say to finish up?
I guess like coming into this I think the two of us really wanted to touch on more of the struggles, which we didn't really get to touch on today. But I know you mentioned, like, from the outside, it does seem like I do a lot of things, and you know, when you're looking at your peers, they always seem so much more successful than you. But, you know, especially even, and I've got a few minutes spare now to just chat about it, but yeah, if we wanted to talk about like more of the struggles and stuff, like, it's so hard. Every time someone asks me about what's it like to do a PhD, I always say it is so much more emotionally challenging than academically challenging, which I don't think a lot of people really talk about. And I think now, like, as you mentioned, things are changing and stuff, but I think it is still extremely taboo. And if you were to take like a break, which is what I did, I've taken a few breaks because of my mental health, you know, that's still sort of maybe not frowned upon, but you still feel that stigma that you're not doing enough and that's not good enough. And I know, yeah, it's been really tough. And I took, so I took maybe 1 or 2 months off earlier in my candidacy because I had physical health issues. So I was in hospital, my gallbladder was failing and blah, 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 all of that drama. And then towards the middle of my candidature, I guess getting more vulnerable, I was assaulted, and that took a huge hit to my mental health. And so, you know, like, I'm happy to chat about it and stuff now, but at the time, like, I remember telling my supervisor, I came in and I just said to him, like, actually, prior to that, I sent him a text, and I just said, I can't come in for the rest of the week. Something bad has happened. And so knowing that I had his support at least, and that he was going to be there and not judge that I needed to not work was really helpful. But from that one incident, like, it changed my whole mental state. You know, like, I was never really someone that had a lot of anxiety. And, you know, like, I'd had bouts of depression, like, you know, in high school, like when my parents separated, blah, 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 all of that. But this was something completely different, and trying to still function at a high level doing your PhD is just impossible. And even with like any mental illness, I don't know how people get through it sometimes. Like, a PhD is so challenging, and that support really needs to be there for students or for anyone that that needs to take a break. Because I mean, I was like completely like bedridden for the 2 months that I took off. And so, yeah, you know, like, you see your peers around you, like, being extremely successful, or, you know, thinking that they've got their life together, but it's so different on the inside to what a lot of people might be going through. And I think that that's really important in the way that you even just, like, every day communicate to someone. You know, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And, you know, I remember, like, coming back to work after my time off, like, no one knew what I'd gone through except for the people that I told in confidence. And, you know, people sort of just, like, assumed that I was on a holiday, or that I was having this great time off and just wanted to go off and, like, you know, do a fun project or something.
I had a similar experience.
Yeah, and it's not like that at all. And just even the language that you use around people sometimes, like, you have to be so careful because you don't know what someone's going through behind closed doors. And as I said, like, sometimes I put on this facade, which is, you know, due to my acting background. Yeah, so
I want to,
yeah. Oh no, I just think, like, you know, as you mentioned to me before this, being more vulnerable is really, really needed in this space, because especially in science, everyone is so high achieving and everyone is excellent, and that's generally what you need to get into this field. And you don't really get to hear about the extreme downfalls that can sometimes happen, and which, you know, not even sometimes happen, like most of the time always happen.
Yeah. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human, and that is part of the human experience. So thank you, because we did want to touch on this a little bit, and thanks for indicating you had a little bit of extra time to sort of take us to that level, because I think it takes an incredible amount of courage to be vulnerable like this on camera and show it to people. It's a PhD is difficult enough as it is, without external things happening and compromising that and threatening that. So I think it's really brave what you've done. I say that legitimately from the heart. I've seen bits and pieces of what you've gone through, but you know, I will never understand what that feels like and what that was like for you. Thank you. I think for anyone that is, you know, doing a PhD and is struggling with their own personal struggles, please know that you know, we all do, but that some people are very, very good at hiding it, that doesn't mean that it's not a common thing. So perhaps we could have a more in-depth conversation, you know, around some of this at another time as well. Because like you said, I think we both agree that it's really important for people to see this side of any career, really. But you know, any sort of high achiever is always going to have things going on in the background, and I think without talking about them, it can make people experiencing those difficulties feel like they're the only one and like they don't belong. And I can definitely relate to, you know, feeling like there's stigma around taking time off. I felt an immense sense of like panic and failure when I had that conversation with my supervisors to take time off. Like, it was actually a crisis point for me. Like, it was a very dangerous weekend for me when I came to that decision. And it's really difficult to explain that logically, because logically, you know, yes, you're struggling, you take time off, that's fine. But emotionally, I think it's a very different experience. And I think there are some great inroads being taken in this space. On Twitter, there's a good sort of academic mental health community, and there's a group called Voices of Academia that are trying to kind of get people to, actually they're not even getting people to do this, people are coming forward and talking about their stories, because a lot of us realize how important it is to be open about some of this, to help others realize that they're not alone. Oh yeah, anyone, oh man,
we could chat about it for hours.
We could chat. So yeah, I guess anyone that's watching this, you know, there's no straight up and down kind of pathway to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
There are going to be some struggles along the way, some that might be completely unexpected, but that's okay, I guess. And
yeah. I think what I'd like to, like if I was to go back and tell myself at that point, is that you can still be successful with a mental illness, and you are still, you're still good enough, and you're still worthy to be doing this PhD, even though you are like extremely depressed and have this high anxiety. Like you're still good enough to be there, and you're still good enough to be doing it, and your supervisor doesn't hate you, which, you know, I still constantly think about. Like I still think that he hates me because it's taken me, you know, like 4+ years to have done something that generally they want you to do in 3 years. You know, like that guilt and that feeling is still there, but, you know, I try to like shush it and put it to the back of the bus. My therapist told me that I'm the driver of my bus, and if one of those feelings comes along, you know, thank you for coming and riding on my bus, but just head to the back.
I have something similar. Someone to like put them into a boat and then send them off into the ocean. Yeah. But yeah, it actually brings to mind something, as much as, you know, we're talking about how this is a common experience, I think it's important to say that if you open up to someone about the difficulties that you're going through, and they say to you, oh yeah, but everyone, you know, everyone has that, and are a little bit dismissive of it, I don't believe in that, and I don't think that that's healthy. That has happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to you, but it actually prevented me from getting help for some time, because I felt like, you know, oh, okay, everyone else is struggling, but they're kind of pushing through, and they're fine. If I can't do that, then I don't deserve to be here. I'm not strong enough.
I think that's the risk when you do talk about it openly, and you start to realize that everyone is going through something that doesn't downplay what you're going through. So when we're talking about you know, ourselves going through you know, a lot of stuff, but we're, I guess, getting through it, that doesn't mean that someone else has to get through it in the same way that we did. Like it's, you know, every person struggles in their own way, and like, yeah, you don't just have to get through it, because I mean that can be dangerous in itself.
Yeah, and we, you know, are able to talk about these things now because, you know, we've both, I think, gotten through the most difficult points of them, and that doesn't mean that you know, depression will go away, anxiety will go away. Like I think people are on a bit of a continuum their whole lives with some of these things, but you know, we wouldn't be talking openly probably about this in the midst of a crisis. necessarily. So if you're in the middle of that, when we were in the middle of that, I think we both went to our GP. We both sought help from a therapist. I still do see my therapist weekly. I think we both went on medication. We both took some time away from our PhDs. I saw a psychiatrist as well. You know, blood tests were a factor. There's a lot. So I think it's important, if you are in a difficult phase, or you know, you're struggling, definitely we've both sought support and didn't just, you know, battle through it.
You can't, like,
we can just get through it. Like we took a step back and we tried to look after ourselves with the supports that were around us. And I think we both probably had hesitation maybe in getting support and some barriers to getting support. I know I did. And I put it off for a long time, and that made things worse for me. So it's I know people always say this, and they say, you know, talk to me, like come to me if you're having problems, and it's okay to seek support. It's easy to say, it's much harder to take on board and to do those things. But in the end, for both of us, it's meant that we are able to get to this point, and we're both a lot more resilient because of it. It took a lot of really hard work and some really difficult times. But in seeking those supports, we are stronger for it. And we have both been able to hold on to continuing with our PhDs and our goals. But yeah, I definitely remember at the time, I, you know, was wailing and like hysterically crying in the office of my therapist and just saying like, I can't do my PhD. Like I can't, like, this just makes me so upset, like that I can't do it. Like, and he tried to keep reminding me, you can't do it right now. Like, it's just for now.
It's just for now. Yeah.
And for me, like, I mean, I took over a year off, and I might have a different video at some point to sort of talk about my story. But I think for me, at least, trying to get back to that level and to get back to my PhD was, as much as it was intimidating, and actually I couldn't even talk about my PhD or the research institute for at least 6 months. I couldn't go near it. But it was this goal that I had that helped kind of pull me through in a way. And I mean, I went back part-time and I volunteered first, and again, I can go through, you know, the steps that I took to get back, because it was not easy. But it was a goal for me, and it was a positive goal for me to help me keep moving forward. But I think it's important for anyone that's struggling, you know, you don't have to finish your PhD. You don't have to go back to it. You don't have to push through this significant potential crisis in your life because of someone else's expectations of you, like fear of judgment. I had someone say to me, oh, but what would people think of you if you didn't go back? And luckily I had enough awareness at the time to see that comment for what it was. And it
came dangerous, that comment.
It came from someone that is a doctor, and that person has spent a huge amount of time studying and trying to get into different programs, to continue the career to specialize. And I think it was just a reflection of that person's struggle and how that person was not willing to step away from something that they had been fighting towards for a really long time. But I was never going to continue with my PhD because of what other people might think of me if I quit. I think that's a really important point to bring up, and I still don't know if I'll finish, honestly. And that's
okay.
It's heartbreaking. It really is, but it is okay.
But that's okay if that's
it will be okay if I don't finish.
Yeah.
So we might sort of finish up there.
Yeah.
I know you've got to go.
I'm going to go catch an Uber instead of a tram now.
No, sorry.
That's okay.
But just shows, how much we both value these conversations and how important we think it is to share our experiences with other people that are coming through. So again, thank you. Hopefully we'll chat at another point in a little bit more detail about some of this. If you're watching this and you would like more information on a certain part of it, please let me know. Let me know if you like this conversation, if you find it helpful, if you'd like to see more of this kind of content. If you'd like to talk to Jess again, let me know. So
yes, I think we could do a whole 3-hour video on struggles, project struggles, how everything in my project has gone wrong, everything in your project's gone wrong. Our mental health, I mean, I don't know if that'd be helpful for viewers, but I think it'd be helpful for us to rant about it.
Definitely. Look, we can do that. We can definitely do that. All right. Thank you, Jess. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.